Good morning, Unity of Flagstaff.
Good morning, baby.
Oh, I think I ought to ease into this after that, don't you? What do you think? Yeah, that's probably not going to happen. So I think I want a job cleaning mirrors.
Why, Penny?
It's just something I could see myself doing. I know, I am grateful for my day job. So today we are talking about reflection and release. Which one you like the most? No, I'm not taking that poll. There are enough polls going around, don't you know? A little R&R today. Reflection and release. Yeah. You know, we're in the season of Lent, and Unity does not promote the traditional giving up of things during Lent. However, it does acknowledge Lent as a season of preparation for Easter, which also happens to coincide with spring. Our little spring equinox is right around the corner. After the longer hours of darkness and the shorter days, Mother Nature shows us what she's getting ready for. She's starting to warm that sap up in the trees. She's showing us exactly that we are in a place of preparation. And we see Lent season as a time of reflection and release for that exact reason. To reflect back on all that has been harvested previously and then rested for a while. And to reflect on all the stuff that's coming. The beauty and the blooms and the green and the trees and the animals and the birds. It's a time to reflect and release. Charles Fillmore says this: self-knowledge or reflection, Charles, of course, being one of our fabulous co-founders of Unity, he says that reflection is the true prelude to a Christ consciousness. Without genuine self-knowledge, other knowledge just becomes, and I love this, a kind of clutter in the world and in the mind. With correct self-knowledge, however, our knowledge reveals its meaning and it ripens into wisdom. That beats clutter every day, doesn't it? Just a little wisdom in our life. One of my faves, Khalil Gibran. One of my faves. Oh, I like being in this room. Well, I liked being in this room before I knew that. And a man said, "Speak to us of self-knowledge," and he answered saying, "Your hearts know in silence the secrets of the days and nights, but your ears thirst for the sound of your heart's knowledge. You would know in words that which you've always known in thought. You would touch with your fingers the body of your dreams, and it is well that you should. The hidden wellspring of your soul needs to rise and run murmuring to the sea, and the treasure of your infinite depths would be revealed to your eyes. But let there be no scales to weigh your unknown treasure, and seek not the depth of your knowledge with a staff or a sounding line, for self is a sea boundless, measureless. Say not, I have found the truth, but rather say, I have found a truth. Say not, I have found the path of the soul. Rather say, I have met the soul walking upon my path. For the soul walks upon all paths. The soul walks not upon a line, neither does it grow like a reed. The soul unfolds itself like a lotus of countless petals. We could probably stop right there. I won't, but we could probably stop right there. You know, this reflection thing was a good idea, I'm sure. But I got into science of it. I got all up here in my head. What is a reflection? And I learned all about reflections, and I took it all in, and I thought, okay, there's a spiritual element in there somewhere. There's always one. I'm ready now. Come on. And then we had a journaling class yesterday. We had a journaling group. And I felt all that science drop into my heart. And I love it when I get to be in a safe, loving environment where I get to express like that. I've shared this. It's a little isolating. It can be a little isolating to be a minister. It can be a little isolating to be the spiritual leader of a community. And I feel so safe. And I'm giving that journal group a plug right now, 10:15 on Saturdays. And it's about once a month. And if you're interested, you need to see Miss Sue back there. It's a fabulous place to be on a Saturday morning. So what we do not learn from experience, we learn from reflecting on the experience. So what are you reflecting on? You don't have to say it out loud. But you're reflecting on something in your life. We always are. It's the coolest thing. In the science of reflection, there is actually a science of reflection. Who knew? I didn't know. They talk about the laws of reflection. Sort of like, the law of attraction, the laws of the universe. Well, there's the laws of reflection. And there are 3 things that are required for a reflection. And this is what I loved about the science part. I was really getting into this. I mean, we all have mirrors. At 40, I thought I was going to throw mine out. But there are actual laws. The first law is this, that the surface has to be flat or smooth. And the best surface is for it to be flat or smooth. Now, it can be curved. It can be convex and concave, but the best reflection surface is flat and smooth. Take that in for a moment. Have you ever seen a reflection of yourself that was distorted? I've seen one that I thought was. Consider the element of what it was reflecting on. A reflection, and I need you to hear this part. Well, I want you to hear all of this. A reflection is a change in direction of light. It's a change in the direction of sound. It's a change in the direction of water waves. That's what a reflection is. Now, I don't know, is that news to anybody else in the room? That's news to me. And I thought, wow. A reflection is a change in direction? It is actually the throwing back by that surface of light, or that surface of heat, or that sound, without absorbing it. Now, I want you to keep that little thought in your mind. A flat, smooth surface creates the best reflection without absorbing it is the reason it becomes a reflection. Now, there really is a spiritual teaching in here, I swear to you. So, the biggest reflector is the ocean. Think about that, the vastness of the ocean. And that surface that allows so much light to be emitted. And did you know that most objects, no matter how dark, and I want you to hang on to this one, because there's a metaphor in here, no matter how dark, they reflect light. No matter. The darkest of dark. This is science. It's not always the most popular subject these days, but it is science. This is science. So in construction, which I had the joy of being in for about 15 years and building large commercial buildings, as a lot of you know, we had a little deal. When people would come into a space and they were going to pick out colors, my least favorite day of the job, because colors are so subjective and so personal. But we would show them samples of colors, and these colors had an LRV, a light reflectivity value. And obviously, the darker, the less light. There's a whole nother talk in matching that up to the people you're working with, let me tell you. But there's an LRV, a light reflectivity value in those colors. Today is an invitation to just think about what yours is. How big is your light reflectivity value? How big is that? How much light have you absorbed? And how much light are you putting out? Because it's making a difference on the planet. Now, I'm not saying any number in the room is wrong. They're all perfect. They're all exactly as they should be. But are you aware that you're doing that all the time? That you are raising and lowering your light reflectivity value all the time. I like it when it's bigger than the number on the scale. That's what I like. When I can think that my light, that the joy, that the peace, that the calm, that the understanding, that the connection that I am emitting, that has a value. And it does in this world, and so does yours. I think that's a talk for another day, though. We'll come back. So, there's this really cool thing, Dr. Tabitha Kirkland. Now, there's a little more science. What she says is this: as humans, we are unique. We are unique animals among all animal species because we have the capacity to engage in self-awareness and self-knowledge and in reflection. We're the only animals that got that ability. Good news and bad news. We're the only animals in the kingdom. And what they call that is meta-conscious cognition. Can anybody say metaphysical? Because that's what that is. This is what distinguishes you from all the other living creatures, right? Now, sometimes just the fact that I can self-reflect can be a bad deal. Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I avoid it like the coronavirus. I say, I don't want to go to that dark place. I don't want to feel that. I don't want to be engaged in that. That isn't serving me now. But it is part of my LRV. It is part of my light reflection value. It is part of who I am. My self-reflection is influenced by the automatic processing of the world around me. So our conscious and our subconscious is processing all the time. Are you still with me? We're processing all the time, and this impacts how we perceive the reflection that we are doing on ourselves. So I have a bad day, and my reflection of who I am in the world, it's in the not good place. And I am reacting to an environment that I am allowing, because nobody's putting this on me, I am reacting to an environment, and my light reflection value goes down. Self-reflection is a school of wisdom, but it is not the weapon with which we discipline ourselves. It is not a punishment. Reflection done from the place of love that we hold for the people around us is healthy and expanding and loving, and it moves me into the value of my own light. It moves me into the value of my own light. And when I am aware of that, when I know that, and this is not new information, but when I am willing and committed to the self-reflection that will continue to move me into the light of who I am, that's a good thing. That's not dark. That's not scary. That's not punishment. That's a gift. That's a gift. Now, this is the big question. How do we do that? And the first thing I will share with you is this. The first thing I will share with you is this. Realize. There's a big surprise. Realize, and realize deeply. And realize deeply your value, your light, reflectivity, value. Realize it. Again, Charles Fillmore. One of the most effective ways to gain greater self-knowledge is to realize that you have a dimension of your mind that is even greater than your thinking self. And boy, am I grateful for that. This greater level of your mind can actually observe yourself thinking. Oh, that Deepak Chopra thing, you know, the observer, observing the observer, that thing. It can make decisions about what it observes, and if it chooses, it can control, change, and adjust what the thinking self is doing. It is from this higher level of your mind that true self-knowledge is attained. And you know, I'm guessing that when that is in place and we're making that realization about ourselves and the value of our own self-realization, that the world changes. Because the reflection that I'm seeing has now become a smooth surface. Because I've been doing the work that makes that image that I am having reflected back to me clear, vast, like the ocean. And the second thing is to create that smooth surface. Reflection, if reflection is that change in direction, then release is the opportunity to direct it back to the energy it came from. Hear it? It's the opportunity to direct it back to the energy it came from. Sometimes we do this unwittingly. I am blessed to get to work in a family law office. Every day I face the wounds and the sadness of having been a stepmom of 5 children and having no connection with them. And unwittingly, my soul drew me to this work, and the opportunity presented itself. Thank you. And I am healing every day because of it. It takes me deeper into my self-reflection. Some of those phrases that I have about marriage and raising kids aren't so loving sometimes. And every day I get to look at them. And I'm doing it unwittingly right up until this talk. Right up until this message came through for me. I am directing back to the energy that the pain comes from. I'm in a family law office. I'm directing that energy back. And now that energy is making a difference in people's lives. And it is. It is. There's a lot of ministry to be done in a law firm. There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of healing. And most of it's going on my side of the desk. Because I have been willing to start into that self-reflection. Because I've been willing to move toward that healing. Because I want to be deep in my life and I want to be the greatest expression that God has called me into. And there's not a person in this room that is not true for. There's not a person in this room that is not true for. Self-realization and self-reflection gives us that tool. You have the power. And I have the power. And when you forget, and you hear me say this often, this community is here to remind you, find a friend, find a counselor, find a spiritual community, find a place that your light reflectivity value is honored and seen and encouraged. Because you're willing to do the reflection work and you're willing to release that which no longer serves you in any manner, and you transform it into healing, and you transform it into love, and you transform it into spirit as the expression of you. That is what you do. That is what you do. That is what you do. Isn't this fun? I mean, isn't this? It's just cool that we're doing this. And we get to choose. Every time you look in a mirror, every time you walk past a window, every time you see a reflection, consider the power of that, and consider how you can use that emotional, spiritual practice of self-reflection and release to control and manage and be in charge of the reflection the world sees. You are the light. You are the light. Yeah, you really are. Namaste.
Yeah.